Today on the channel, it's the return of the Kyle Peterson Top 5, and in today's video, I'm counting down top 5 wrestlers that will never get an action figure ever again.
And the spirit of Ultimate Warrior will run forever!
Welcome everyone, Kyle here, and welcome back to the channel for another edition of the Kyle Peterson Top 5, a Thursday tradition on this very YouTube channel. As each and every Thursday, we're doing a top 5 and occasionally a top 10 countdown. And in today's video, we're counting down my top 5 performers in wrestling that will never, ever get an action figure again. And right off the bat, I'm sure you can think of some performers that have had some figures in the past that we know will never happen again in the future. And as usual, as I always say, this is my list. Put your list in the comments down below. And as usual, start at number 5, work your way to number 1, with number 1 being the absolute no way are we getting that figure ever again. And you can think of some controversial characters that have had wrestling figures of the past that will never get them again. Like I said, I think you can pull some off the top of your hat, no pun intended. But we'll see how your list compares to mine. But I am truly pretty much sure we'll never get any of these performers again. So without further ado, let's kick it off. Number 5. We kick off the countdown at number 5, and number 5 is an interesting one, and that's why it's going to be number 5 here, because there is a possible chance for this one. There's definitely a possibility. But coming after the last couple of weeks of news on his podcast, especially his comments about one Matt Cardona and some of the stories around everything, I don't anticipate us ever getting another Jim Cornette figure. Now, this is number 5. This is at the top of the list. So if anyone could happen, I think it would be this one. But Jim has said once his FTC stuff is done, he is done with figures. Now, we always know follow the money at the end of the day, but Jim feels like, or sounds like, I guess, listen to him, that he wants nothing to do with the action figure game, which is surprising to me, especially let's say Zombie Sailor comes to him, Jim, I want to make X amount of figures. I'm going to pay you this cash. You don't do anything. You just collect the cash. I would think Jim would take that money, but he's been pretty staunch right here. He is saying that he is done once his FTC figures are done. He had a great relationship with FTC. He is done with the figure game. But that being said, I think there's a glimmer of hope with him more than anybody else on this countdown. But as we see things and hear things right now, sounds like the chance of getting a Jim Cornette, big rubber guy, Mattel Elite, any of that kind of stuff is not going to happen. If I was a betting man, I'd say never, but at least as of right now, as of filming, we're not getting any more Jim Cornette figures. Countdown rolls on to number 4, and number 4 selection is a guy that's had tons of figures, and I've talked about it on the channel before when I would talk to my aunt, you know, my mom's sister. That's what an aunt is. And she would list wrestlers. I'd be playing wrestlers as a little kid. She would always list off this performer first, then Hulk Hogan. That's how big of a character this guy was once upon a time. He's a household name still in wrestling, but has been a heck of a long time, maybe 15 years possibly, since we've had a figure of this performer. Who are we talking about? Well, we're talking about Superfly Jimmy Snuka. Yep, Jimmy Snuka back in the LJN days, Hasbro WWF days, Jakks Classic Superstars, even Mattel Legends in the early infancy of that line, we got Jimmy Snuka figures. But it has been silence ever since, and we do know the history of him allegedly murdering his girlfriend and the cover-up and all of this, which basically made him don't touch, don't make figures of. Now, I could see a third-party company maybe jumping in on this if it is a possibility, especially as time goes on. And I hate to say people forget about what happened at the end of his life with the courtroom and all that kind of stuff. Now, he allegedly killed his girlfriend back in the 80s. I think it was the early 80s, if I'm not mistaken. But it all kind of came to fruition at the end of his life with the trials and all that. Now, I can't remember. It's been so long since he has since passed away, Jimmy Snuka, and the court case and everything. But if I'm not mistaken, was he ever proven guilty? That could give a sliver of hope here. Now, you guys know how it is. Even if you're not guilty, you're still kind of have that stigma going on. Remember O.J. Simpson? Everybody heard of O.J.? Todd, good friend of O.J.? Oh, we'll talk about that later. You know, a lot of people said, O.J., he did it. He did it, even though he was found not guilty, at least in one aspect of it all. So it's one of those really dicey gray areas there, but I think a lot of people do view that he did it. And in the court of public opinion, still to this day, it's he did it. He did it. He was found guilty, which I believe he was never officially found guilty, never served time. He did pass away. I think he had like Alzheimer's or dementia at the time. I'm not getting into the trial here, but I got a feeling we haven't had anything in like 15 years. I don't see anything on the horizon. I hear it in the comments every once in a while. I see it in Facebook groups. Why can't Snuka get a figure? And there's a lot of people that have forgotten about that one, where I'll hold the door open a little bit here, maybe 5 years from now, as more time gets past it, maybe something will happen as far as action figures. But at the same time, 5 years, I would say Jimmy Snuka is forgotten a little bit more every single day. And that's unfortunately a lot of the 70s, 80s talents. As they pass away, they're not out there in our face at autograph stuff. They get forgotten about. As people move on and fans of them start to die off, it's just a sad state of affairs there. But I don't see Jimmy Snuka anytime soon. I'm going to put him at number 4 in this top 5 list. We've hit the middle spot of the countdown. You got your list together. Put it in the comments down below. Don't forget to like this video. It always helps. You guys know that. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, as every Thursday we're doing these countdown videos. But here we are at number 3, a controversial character since the word jump or word go, whatever you want to say, as this guy has been in the news a lot, and he is officially out of wrestling at this point here in 2026. But you never know when he might return. If he returns, what he'll do, maybe start something new. We're talking about Vince McMahon. Now, Vince McMahon, going back to the LJN days, has had action figures. LJN, Jakks, even Mattel figures. So no stranger to action figures, but I can't imagine here in 2026 getting Vince McMahon figures at all anytime soon. I don't even think Mattel legally could do anything with him. It's not like he has a Legends deal. And I don't anticipate, once again, we'll just pick on Zombie Sailor, but pick on any of them. Let's say Zombie Sailor, hey, Vince, I want to make a figure of you. I think Vince has enough money. I don't feel like he wants figures of himself. I don't know if he even wanted figures back when he was in wrestling. So I just don't anticipate that ever happening again. I think the days of Vince McMahon figures are over. If you want Vince figure, your best bet is to go to a flea market, a toy show, something like that. Maybe you can find some that's not priced so heavily, because I think last I checked, they're a little bit harder to find now, as people always want to represent a little Vince McMahon in their collection. But a lot of the deeds that have came out over the last couple of years, and once again kind of talks to the Jimmy Snuka thing, until it's all done through the court of law, it feels like he's guilty in public opinion, which he could be. I don't know. Either way, I don't have an iron in the fire, Todd McFarlane. I don't have an iron in the fire, but I do feel we won't get a Vince McMahon figure anytime soon. Obviously, Mattel still is going to be thought of as kids' brand. I can just see him. They put a Vince figure out, people are going to have an uproar. You thought Al Snow with a severed head was something? We're not going to get Vince McMahon anytime soon. So Vince McMahon coming in at number 3 in this top 5 countdown. We roll into the number 2 spot, getting closer and closer to that coveted number 1. And I feel like in this top 5 list, you don't want to be number 1, but somebody's got to be number 1. But first, before you get to 1, you got to have a number 2. And that's where we're going right here. There's never been a figure since that fateful day. Once again, on my birthday, Todd McFarlane, I'll never forget that birthday present. My favorite active wrestler at the time, Chris Benoit. And we know all about the Chris Benoit tragedy. Once again, that's not for me to tell everybody about and relive that gory, terrible day. But it was on my birthday. I'll never forget it. And it was just a terrible birthday present to me. His wife, Nancy Woman, I mean, she was a wrestling superstar herself. And then their son, Daniel, and Chris Benoit all died on that faithful day. And, Chris Benoit, like I said, the whole story, but, they celebrated him at first thinking there was something else. And then it took an even darker turn, unfortunately. And there's been nothing Benoit since. And it's one of those weird things you see on Facebook groups all the time. I want a Benoit. I'm making custom Benoit. And I guess it's people compartmentalizing, saying I'm separating the performers from the person. And I do understand that a bit. I think we've all had some favorite performers, actors, actresses, musicians, whatever, that have been up to no good, but you did still enjoy them. I don't know. It's up to you and your verdict on that kind of thing. But I don't know. Like I said, Chris Benoit was my favorite active performer. I had loved Chris Benoit since I first saw him in ECW, through WCW, into WWE. I loved everything Benoit in the ring. I was a massive Benoit fan. And if this wasn't here, I think he would be a Mount Rushmore for me. Unfortunately, really, really tainted, as you can imagine, by the final days of his life, whatever you want to call it. And I just couldn't co-sign a Chris Benoit figure. I do have him. I'm not to the limit where, like, my Jakks Chris Benoit figures, I have those in my collection. They're still on display in my Jakks Complete Collection over there. I'm not where I'm going to throw those in the garbage or anything, but I'm not sure I feel like we need any Chris Benoit figures in the future from Zombie side. I just keep picking on Zombie today. It's Zombies Day. But I don't think, and I don't know if it would be a good idea to make a Zombie Sailor figure. I think you make it's a great idea to make a Zombie Sailor figure. To make a Chris Benoit figure, I feel like, let's say, once again, picking on Zombie, if Zombie made a Chris Benoit figure, that would be a great figure to retire and say that's the last figure I'm ever going to make, because the blowback on all of that would be a little too much. You would get some sales. I'm sure people would buy it, but I think that stigma would haunt him and his toy line, or whoever made it in their toy line. So I wouldn't recommend a Benoit figure. Like I said, I was a huge Benoit fan. It's just always still a bummer to talk about, obviously. But Chris Benoit coming in at a strong number 2. And who's stronger at number 1? Well, it depends how you look at it. But I can guarantee you the number 1 selection will never, ever happen again. Here we are at number 1, the number 1 spot of the countdown. You got your list, and make sure you put it in order. 5, I guess, the most likely to number 1 that it's just never, ever going to happen. Put your list in the comments down below. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, all that kind of fun stuff. And did you know I have a podcast? It's pretty off the rails, but check it out every single Tuesday wherever podcasts are found. Videocast on YouTube. Todd, you said you check it out each and every week, and I'm surprised how many people listen to the audio podcast. Every week we grow those numbers. I'm very surprised how many people listen to the audio, because we do have the video, but there are some people that want to listen to audio podcasts in this day and age. So shout out to them. They could be the real ones. They could be. But enough about the podcast, enough jibber jabber. We're getting to the number 1 figure that'll never, ever, ever, ever happen again. Now, this was a wild thing. I remember as a little kid when this did happen, I kind of scratched my head, as, once again, one of my absolute all-time favorite performers is what this one is. And I couldn't really understand. I didn't really understand the significance of things, but it was strange at the time, even for a strange performer that this guy was. And we did get a figure during the Jakks Classic Superstars days, dare I say the Jakks Deluxe Classic Superstars days, that did represent this one. It is extremely rare. It is a rare boy. It's a 1 of 100, so there are a few out there. It never went to mass retail, and I'm even a little bit shocked that Jakks did make this at the time in, the early 2000s, whatever you want to call it. But in this new PC era we're in right now, this would never fly in a million years. It is Rowdy Roddy Piper in blackface. Yes, blackface. You never go blackface, Todd McFarlane. We've all learned that. I never had to learn it the hard way, but I've seen a lot of people in social media learn the hard way in Halloween that you don't do the blackface, folks. But Roddy Piper did back there at WrestleMania once upon a time. He went half black. Is what he did. But still, obviously not too PC. I don't remember the rumblings, like I said, early in the WrestleMania days. I remember a few groans around the time when this came out, but as the years have went on, this is one of those, what the heck are they doing figures? Now, I'm happy to have this in my collection. I love the Jakks line and stuff. It is a moment in time. Constant learning, constant improvement as a society. I understand all that kind of stuff. But this is an extremely controversial figure for a lot of people. And there's no way Mattel or anybody else would ever attempt to make this one. It's just not going to happen. And it's just not. Do I think a Benoit figure is more likely than this? I kind of do, actually. I just don't think anybody wants to step into this one here. And with him being signed to a Legends deal, which means Mattel, they're never going to touch that with a 10-foot pole, or your 10-foot pole, Todd McFarlane. Yeah, 12 foot? 12 foot for Todd over there. They're not touching that with anything there. So I wouldn't say it's as mean and vicious as maybe some of the Chris Benoit stuff or Jimmy Snuka stuff we talked about. I think it's a whole different level. But as far as mass retail releases, we're not seeing this one again. So this is an interesting list, a bit of a dark list here. Be very interested to see who is on your list. And Todd, you got something off the top of your head? Bruiser Bob Sweeten? Sweetan, I always call him. You call him Sweeten? Is he related to Jodie Sweetin from Full House? It could be. We'd have to look that one up. Somebody get the tree. Somebody get the tree out. But yeah, Bob Sweeten, another terrible individual, if anybody knows that story. There's a lot of terrible individuals, but I don't know anybody that would make a Bruiser Bob Sweeten figure. What, you tried to get the license to it as a one-off? Well, that's a wild turn of events for McFarlane from the couch here today. I don't know anybody that would buy that figure. Most people that are watching this have never even heard of him. That's a crazy thing, but it is what it is. It is what it is. But it's been a dark top 5. Once again, put your list in the comments down below. You made it this far. Don't forget to like the video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Turn on that old notification bell, as we got videos every single day and then some. We got even more content for you, if you can believe it, on Patreon, YouTube channel memberships. Your best way to support the channel. Sir Paul64 on the X, _Kyle_Peterson on Threads, Instagram, TikTok, and the Kyle Peterson Show at gmail.com, which is named my podcast I talked about earlier. Available wherever podcasts are found with video cast on YouTube. So for another top 5, I'm Kyle. See you guys all real soon.
Are we gonna dance or are we gonna play?